How do you take beds of orchids, bromeliads, and begonias from this early stage to this colorful display in only 3 months? Keep watching and we'll show you how. Welcome back to the Calyx Services Gardening Channel. To our regular viewers, we say special welcome, and if you're new to the channel, we also extend a special welcome to you and invite you to subscribe so that you do not miss notifications when we upload a new video every weekend. And today's topic is the care and maintenance of a display bed of bromeliads, orchids, and other plants. As with other plants, the routine maintenance of this display bed consisted of watering, fertilizing, pest management, and sanitation. And before I get going, let me just show you the tools and materials that we use in the maintenance of this bed, and which I generally put in this handy basket for ease and convenience. And the first and very important item is protecting yourself in the garden from anything that may cause you harm, and in this case, in maintenance of the bed, really it's when we're handling any chemicals that we will use. Gloves. Long sleeves, very few, yes, there's some thorns, but you can keep away from those. So first item, gloves and any other protective gear. For watering, we have this handy sprayer, because at this stage, most of these plants are epiphytes and really don't need a lot of water. So on a regular basis, if we're just wanting to maintain the humidity, then we use this handy sprayer. When there is no rain for a period of time and we have to water the roots, we use the typical garden hose with a nozzle that has various settings depending on the intensity of the spray that you wish. And for fertilizing, we have various formulations of fertilizers that we will use depending on the stage of growth of the plant. And in this case, I'm just showing you a soluble formulation and a slow release formulation. And of course, along with that, the measuring tools, the measuring scoops, depending on the rates you're going to use. So that covers fertilizing. Very important also now the pest management. This bed has been going for 3 months and we have not had to spray for any diseases, but the ubiquitous ever-present snails and slugs. We have had one attack against a dendrobium and we have had to apply the methaldehyde pellets. Turning to tools, the typical tools are the secateur, the shovel, and our handy tools for removing any weeds that may crop up. Moving on to routine maintenance. Let's start with watering, and we all know why we water. That is to provide the plants with the amount of water that they need when they need it. And because we're dealing with epiphytes, those plants that really don't need soil to grow, and that can extract their moisture, a lot of their moisture from the air, we have to be careful that we do not overwater them. And for the 3 months that we've been maintaining this bed, those 3 months were late February, March, April, and mid-May. That is a cooler, relatively dry period, but we had a lot of rains in May. We had 10 inches of rain throughout the entire period, but most of that, more than half of that, fell in May. So the first 2 months when the plants were being established, the area was relatively dry. So you have to adjust your watering depending on what is happening, especially with the rainfall. Now, during the dry period, we will water the bed itself every 2 or 3 days, and just slowly, not watering the leaves. We would make sure that the water penetrates through to the compost layer. This gravel and the charcoal layer would allow the water to drain freely, but if you recall from the establishment video, there is a very thick, very nice 3 or 4 inches layer of compost, which while it does not keep water for long, it retains sufficient water over a 2 or 3 day period. So in the dry weather, we would water every 2 or 3 days, and certainly if it's raining, we would not water. Now, notice I had watered the beds But there are plants with roots exposed, and especially in the early stages too, these plants would not have been sufficiently established to extract their own water. So, especially if it's a hot, dry day, on a daily basis, I would provide the roots with a nice mist of water. So it's a combination in the watering, in this case for the epiphytes, and those with exposed roots, I would mist them. And as usual, keep an eye on your plants. The epiphytes are not going to show you wilting instantly, but you can tell if they're under moisture stress. The leaves would start to turn yellow. So if you follow the routine observations, you should be able to detect when your plants are going under stress. To provide the plants with the essential nutrients they needed in the early stages, we mix 20-20-20 foliar fertilizer at the rate of 1/4 teaspoon per liter of water and spray this onto the leaves and the exposed roots. But for a more sustained source of nutrients, especially for the begonias and the palm, I applied a slow-release balanced NPK fertilizer 1 month after planting. This was to promote growth. Now, at 3 months, I'm going to apply 1 tablespoon of a slow-release orchid fertilizer that promotes blooming. I intend to alternate between the growth formulation and the bloom booster formulation of the slow-release fertilizer every 2 months or so. But of course, I'll adjust this plan depending on the appearance of the plants. Okay, so we finished watering and fertilizing. The next step is the pest management. Except for one incident, we have not encountered pests and diseases that required control treatment. However, we had an incident with the slugs, and let me go show you that now. The only part of dendrobium orchids, as I said, I'm trying with them. When we started out, there was a flower spike, and it did bloom very nicely. Shortly thereafter, the slugs took up residence in this pot and started having them, this is one, started feeding on the dendrobiums in the night. And because I'm reluctant to use chemicals, it took me a little while hoping they'd go away. But in the end, I resorted to using metaldehyde pellets. About a month ago, I applied the first treatment and it worked. I caught about 4 slugs, and you could see a few of the remnants of the pellets, but it's time to refresh. And this size pot, it's a 10-inch pot. I'm just going to put a tablespoon, sprinkle it in both the inner pot and the outer pot, because I want any slug that is coming in from any angle to come in contact with this. And since I did this, what you're looking at here is the old, you could see the remnants of the initial attack, where the slug would have eaten off the upper surface of the leaf or the softer parts of the leaves and started on chewing. But since then I haven't seen any new attacks. I'm going to keep a closer eye on this and apologize to my dendrobium profusely and give thanks that the slugs preferred that and not everything else. All right, for the last routine maintenance, we spoke about bed sanitation, and that consists of routinely removing anything that doesn't belong there, that the slugs can hide under, and included in what you definitely don't want, both for aesthetics and for other pests, general sanitation, keeping away pests and diseases, or any weeds. Now this, if anybody out there know the name, the scientific name of this weed, and I'll give you a close-up picture, please let me know, because I've been searching for it. But it does become a problem even in the lawn. And what we have here is that it started in the lawn, very tedious to separate it from the roots of the lawn grass. But you see how it runs? But this one is really not nice. So if anybody knows what this noxious weed is, please let me know. Now that we finished the demonstration of the routine maintenance practices, we would wish to show you the result of all of that work over the last 3 months. Starting with my favorite Bromeliad, it has grown in size. It is sending out pups. If you can come this side, you'll see the pup coming up there nicely. And in addition to this beautiful, beautiful bloom. And from my experience with the previous plant, this bloom lasts about 3 months. It goes in stages. When it just started, it just came out nice and gray. Then it started to pop all of these flowers. And it really is spectacular, especially when you look at it, when you look at the leaves also. This Vanda in full bloom. The bloom is going off a bit now. It's been here for about a month. And of course, I got very excited when it came out. These, all of them, I mean, I may be picking out plants, but as you can see, we'll just do a pan. The colors have really deepened since they've been out in the bed. The begonias, you see, a few of them have what looks like a hollow head. And what I've done is to take off cuttings, which is going to be the subject of the next video. And so I'll save that for then. And something I want to do on camera, I haven't done it before, is to see what really has happened in the pot. Let me come to the one in the front. Now, you would recall that these pots were just sunken in the bed, and we had to apply whatever treatment directly. We had to direct the watering and the fertilizing to where we think the pot is. And what I'm going to try to do now is to shift the pot a bit to see whether or not the roots, what is really supporting these excellent growth. So yes, the roots have escaped from the pot, not as many as I would have expected, but sufficient for the plant to also be feeding from the bed. I'm getting extra water as well as nutrients from the compost in the bed. So excellent. This is a wax begonia which really does well in full sun. The Vandas, those with the exposed roots, you can see they've put on at least 1.5 inches of extra growth in that period of time. So shortly they're going to be in the bed, being firmly established and feeding from the bed. Now our antelope, it's coming on. The bromeliads are surviving, but the nature of bromeliads is they grow slowly, which means you have less maintenance to do. So that's doing well. The collection of bromeliads around the orange tree, we've thinned it out a bit, which you have to do as they send out pups. You don't want your bed to become too overcrowded. So what I did was cut a few, and I'm re-establishing those that were getting a little old. And this is the last Cymbidium bloom that survived the 3-month period. So we have one to show you. So these oncidiums, there are 3 baskets, one at ground level. They have been spiking. This top spike has already bloomed off. The lower 2 are still there, but they were at their peak about a week ago. And this is what you expect. Not everything peaks at the same time, luckily. So there's ever-changing display. And this lovely guy, it has cupped very nicely, and I just love that bloom. And the colors of the bloom, you could see, complements the colors of the begonia. One last look so you can appreciate that the results are really worth the efforts. Thanks for coming along with us on this display bed project. First, the establishment phase, and now the updates. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to check us each week. We upload a new video every Thursday or early Friday morning, and we appreciate the views and the comments. Please keep your comments coming. So until next week, this is Thelma saying thanks for watching and bye-bye.